genuine bummer, guys.
Hi, welcome back to the fiction game. We've been recording for an hour.
It was so good, you guys.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna ask everyone sum up what's happened so far. Miles, what happened first?
Okay, so we got introduced to Keath, who very, very slowly was dying from the shulking end. Found some massive magical beast that was scary and killed it. Eventually went off to his wild patron's dimension-ish and died. Going to the afterlife, getting devoured soul piece by soul piece by Cyclops crows, and then tried to fight a couple of them, lost, but was reincarnated with all of his memories as a little wolf cub.
Yep. Sam, Merigold, what happened next?
We were in an alley hiding from the guards when Greyson saw someone. Greyson was on watch. He saw someone sneaking past and went to follow them. Was ambushed by the Brothers of Ochre, who manacled him with a pair of handcuffs. And we then cut to them sneaking up on Alberth and knocking him unconscious, kidnapping Merigold and putting him inside of a triple salt circle, and performing a ritual to remove the possession from him because, of course, Jan saw the instant when Merigold originally became possessed in his cell. Losing this possession was a difficult thing. The tentacles started to come out of nowhere. The demon was resisting, but it ended up working. But as the demon left Merigold's mind, it clawed out 3 spells on the way to the exit. So Merigold no longer has Psychic Ward, a spell that has actually, I don't think, ever prevented psychic damage for him. He lost his Presence Ward, which I've used like on occasion. I think the only time I've used that this campaign was to sense Vizier Kama in the tree and accidentally hit her with a Compel Indiscretion, which really pissed her off. So that's maybe not a huge loss either. And also I lost Proxy Combat Armor, which is a bit of a bummer. But the main, like, Merigold combo is intact.
That means that we off-screened a possession, boys.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, almost a year ago today, we started the fiction game, streaming it on Twitch, and we said at the beginning of every episode for like 4 episodes, this is just practice. One day we'll like really make this production quality, but if something goes bad now, it's just practice. And apparently we're still practicing. Boy, if we were, can you imagine if we had like an audience that we felt responsible to? We would have had to just run that whole first hour again and then pretend we didn't know what was going to happen and react really excitedly. But given the single digit nature of the views on every one of our videos, we press on. Boy, you guys were all here for it. It was still good, right?
It was actually fantastic.
Yeah.
All right.
And a huge relief to have the demon out of Merigold's head.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a great plot element for like a character in a book, because you love to have tension in a book, but it's kind of rough to have tension in a tabletop role-playing game where you're like, oh good, this game that I'm playing so I can do like try silly things and have like fun adventures. I have to have anxiety about like what those decisions are gonna mean for my character because I'm limited in a really brutal way. Anyways,
I will say Merigold is thinking of immediately trying to scry on a different demon, but from within the Salt Circle. So he's gonna ask Jan if that's okay. I'll be more careful this time.
Yeah, as long as you only physically exist in this world right now, as long as your only body right now is encased within that that circle, then you'll be protected.
As long as, yeah, I think that's true. I don't have another body going on.
Sweet.
Extremely dangerously specific there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, most mortals don't.
That doesn't include proxy spellcasting, no?
So I'm gonna. I don't have a proxy cast at the moment though. There's no current active proxy.
Mm.
I am gonna sit in the middle of the salt circle then, and I'm going to scry, and I'm gonna say, "Show me the demon in like I don't know how Merigold would say this in the physical realm that is physically closest to me right now." Trying to figure out where the demon posse is chilling.
All right. It's a long scry phrase, which means the cooldown will be brutal. But you just reset a cooldown pretty recently. And fortunately, scry is another one of those important spells that was kept very intact despite that whole process. That could have gone a very different way depending on rolls. There wasn't even a guarantee that they would actually exorcise this demon. Like, if that circle got broken for too long, the demon would just still be in your brain mind, telling you to kill him.
Probably not happy with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. Merigold immediately sits in this triple-ringed circle of salt that's very protective against demons, stares into an almost invisible object within his two hands, his clear stone, and as soon as Marigold's eyes like kind of fog over and drift into this orb, you guys, everyone in the room except for Marigold, you hear someone entering the building below. Like someone bashes down the door and very quickly is like running up the stairs. In fact, you hear several sets of footprints. It's a group of people is like SWAT raiding this building as soon as Marigold starts to scry.
Why?
Because it's convenient.
All right.
The plot demands it. Marigold's familiar with this.
I don't know. What do the Brothers of Ochre do at this juncture?
They're all pulling out weapons. The guy with the axe is going like back against the door so that the door is open outward so he can come out behind them and that kind of thing. And one of the other brothers, a taller one, the one with the bow and arrow, says, "Now we're followed all the time by the servants of demons and warlocks and all that. Get behind us if you're not combat able. But it could also be the guard. They've been looking for you, and we made quite a racket trying to get a demon out of your friend here."
And just remind me, does Greyson have any of his equipment still, or is it just like the stuff he stole while he was in jail?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, no, you would just have whatever weapons you could have scrounged up from the guard stations charging out of the prison. Which probably means you have a couple crappy crossbows that are the knockoffs of the gun.
I think at some point I did pick up a sword as well, so I'll ready that.
Sweet. Right on. Yeah, you guys get ready to shoot, get ready to slice, and a huge armored figure comes through the door shoulder first, smashes it open. It's a group of 4 people. They all run out. One of them sword and shield, full armor. One of them two-handed sword, full armor. And 2 of them are unarmed. They're strangers. You've never seen them before.
Oh,
It's not
I was gonna go a different way.
The Brothers of Ochre immediately start to like charge in. One of them throws. Oh, have I lost him? I've completely lost him.
It froze on a really good frame for me.
Yeah,
It was
same.
yeah.
Really mid.
yeah, mid swing.
Looked like the cover of Assassin's Creed Valhalla. We're back. Yeah, we're back. We're recording. Boy, what a session, just technologically. Where was I? Yes, the Brothers of Ochre are responding to these invaders. One of them throws a hatchet. That you guys saw these hatchets used to brutal efficacy earlier. And as the hatchet flies midair, and as the guy with the axe like shoulders the door closed and begins to like swing at the back person, the person with the sword and shield looking around goes, "Oh, Grace," and then hit by an axe, immediately stumbles backwards several steps, and one of the unarmed figures turns around, sees the axe guy, and barely rolls out of the way in time and goes, "Shit, right," and waves a hand over her face, and it's Elway. And when you guys turn it back, you recognize all of your companions now. Yasuka just took an absolute hatchet to the shoulder, and the Brothers of Ochre are all like poised, heavy weaponry over these people whose faces just changed and who seemed to recognize you guys. They look frantically at you like, kill, not kill? Give me the Julius Caesar.
I blast out a Hearthlight aura and just calm everybody down.
Very, very smart. Alberth just immediately glows with the holy light of an angel, and everyone in the room is suddenly more graceful and patient and kind. Just really looking out for one another. There's a real spirit of community in this room, with this full blast Hearthlight aura. And yeah, Alberth, you say, "Hey, don't kill each other. We're all good here." And the Brother of Ochre with the throwing hatchets goes and like helps Yasuka up, who's just fully like, "No, not a problem. I totally get it. Happens to the best of us." Takes the hatchet out of her shoulder and hands it back. Yeah. You guys are once again reunited as a party. Lion says, "Now, I'm sorry we charged in. Weren't you in manacles just a second ago, both of you?" Right. Well, I'm glad you're not now.
Merigold was possessed. It was a whole thing. Don't worry about it.
Merigold was possessed? And Yasuka says, "And that was past tense. We're sure about it." Oh. Well,
Look at the Brothers of Ochre, I guess.
Yeah.
the Brothers of Ochre, Jan just gives a thumbs up, but one of the more eloquent brothers says, yeah, he's you can sort of feel the marks being released from his brain, and if Merigold can tell us now that he was possessed, then that means there's no dark gash on his mind that's gonna, because usually the first thing that they say is like, if you tell anyone you're possessed, you'll get really messed up in some clever way that every demon thinks that theirs is like the most spooky and threatening way. It's whatever, but yeah, he's good, he's clean. Merigold, you good? Oh, I think I cut out again. He says, "Merigold, you good? You're not possessed anymore, but you were?"
Am I still like glazed over in the scry? Or is that over?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he says that, and you have no way of responding or even knowing that he said that. He looks back and he says, "He's fine." Yeah, we're sure. And Yasuka,
in the assault circle, like cross-legged, staring into an invisible orb.
Yeah, Yasuka says, "Oh, yeah, all right. That, you know what? That probably means that that Banefinder wasn't tampered with at all. Crazy. I can't believe Baron Bladen didn't tamper with that one." And then she kind of looks over at Greyson.
Oh no, we've since learned that the king is possessed by a demon as well. So I think that probably had something to do with both the Banefinders going off. But
Oh, yeah, that would make a huge difference. And she, yeah, she gestures to, yeah, you guys all catch up. There's a lot of catching up to do. The whole demon possession, the second jailbreak, it's a lot to talk about.
I want to ask the Brothers of Ochre how to perform an exorcism.
Yeah, they love to share their knowledge, and when they hear that you are like a demon hunter, they're hyped about it. They tell you everything they know. They explain that the phrases that they were chanting, they were quoting an ancient agreement between demons and mortal kin of like conditions on entering the mortal world. That basically there was like a council a really long time ago, is how the legend goes, that said like, we can decide when people can and can't enter the world, and especially like make bonds with casters. And so they set forth requirements for each of the different types of otherworlders of like, these are the conditions by which you can or cannot enter the world. And that ancient agreement was written in Deep Cunning, or Chthonic, the language of the demons. And so they have to quote it in Deep Cunning. But they're basically lawyers. They're or barristers is what they say. And they're like, yeah, no, and you have to. So that's why there's so much traditionally chanting involved with exorcisms. That's because of actual chanting that had to happen during exorcisms. It was quoting the agreements. Yeah, and then but that doesn't really kick them out. It just opens them up to psychic attacks, and so we're all very psychically trained to kind of reach into the mind surgically and pluck out whatever we need to. It takes a lot of years of training, but we can certainly teach you the basics, especially if you've ever had any psychic training in the past. And indeed, Greyson has. After a while, Jan also says, yeah, since we broke out of jail, I suppose everyone in this room is sort of the same level of wanted by the law. I don't know if any of you want to join a traveling demon hunting brigade. We don't really waste time being above the law or like fixing up that kind of thing. We're just going to go out and keep hunting demons. So if you want to join us, offer's always on the table. At one point, we were all just an actual set of 4 brothers, but not anymore. We just take applicants. Thinking of franchising.
I have a hard time because I don't want to split up the party, but at the same time, a roving band of demon hunters that ignores the law is sort of like exactly what Greyson would want to do, you know?
Well, Greyson, time to re-roll a new character because this one's going on a journey.
I don't mean to spoil anything, but I think this will be the last part of what I'm going to call Act 1 of Axis of Instinct, because since Miles is taking a leave of absence for a while, we'll be switching and then coming back to this campaign or this setting later. So it's a very natural point to leave the campaign if that's what Greyson would do. You would need to create a new character, but this isn't the only what I'm going to call in a very referential to community kind of way. This isn't the only spin-off opportunity that's going to happen in the plot of this episode alone. So if Greyson ends up taking them up on that offer, that's that can be arranged.
Merigold does have 2 questions for the Brothers of Ochre before they leave as soon as like the scry ends.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I should wait until that happens or not.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll wrap up what you guys are doing while the scrying happens, and then we'll do the scry, and then after scry. Yeah, is there anything else you guys are going to be doing during the, while the scry goes down?
I don't know. Greyson would like to put in an application, but we can set that for like, I'll meet you at the gates in 3 days' time or something so we can finish the episode.
Sweet. Right on. Yeah. Meanwhile, remind me of the exact phrasing that Merigold used to try and find this demon.
I don't remember the exact. What's the name of like the physical realm as opposed to the other worlds?
Solagia is the name of the
Solagia.
planet. Yeah.
And it would be clear, like, if I specify in Solagia, that means not in hell, not in any of the other like kingdom realms.
The hells, but yes, yeah. It would be in the mortal realm. You could say mortal world, mortal realm, Solagia. All of those should work.
Okay. And they would all have like the same complexity in terms of algorithm time. So like Solagia probably seems the safest. Proper nouns like those. It was show me the demon that is physically the closest to me in the realm of Solagia.
Right on. Yeah, having learned from the last
again right there, but that's pretty good still. Algorithm joke.
Yeah. It's smart for Merigold to phrase stuff like this, because when you said the demon bound to Greyson and the scry spell was like, well, I'll just take that and run with it. Yeah, you really got to tell this thing where it's going. But yeah, the demon physically closest to Merigold in Sologia is a
Yeah.
great
The many
thing.
Telberries taught Merigold the importance of proper nouns in scrying.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You gain an immediate view of a man. He appears to just be a mortal human, so you're not sure if he is possessed by a demon, and so you've zoned in on him and it counts. Or since, I mean, Abel Kah Ashadd is an angel, but he looks very much like a mortal, like a definitely enhanced mortal, but you know that that body was like constructed for him. So now that you zoom in on this like apparently mortal human, it occurs to you people you've met could be bodies that were created for otherworlders and demons in particular. As far as you know, they have the ability to almost like polymorph in that way, or with that witch magic that's like you just look like something different now. You're not sure what the extents of that are either. If you could just like straight up be a demon in a physical demon body and just disguise it. But either way, this person does not become aware of your scrying on them at all. And it reminds you of what Abel Kah Ashadd once said about Bane auras, which when he talked about like brass would hurt him, he mentioned that the Bane aura for Lycians is citrus, but didn't say citrus would hurt me. He said if you were covered in citrus oil, I wouldn't be able to see you. It occurs to you that by being encased in this protective triple circle of salt, you are not only unassailable, you are unwitnessable by whatever presence was clearly able to see when you scryed on it, when you scryed on the last demon. Yeah, this person, anything within them, they are unaware of your scrying presence. This person is running up a set of steps that you recognize as the steps leading to the Grand Hall of Telmeri. Indeed, you don't recognize this well-dressed man, but as he passes, people nod or bow in deference, and they begin to refer to him as Archduke Cairn. Archduke being a very heavily reserved title, this must be the new right hand of the king, who you have not met. The old right hand of the king was Duke Visica, and you're pretty sure he had one between this and that, but you scried for a demon and you found the right hand of the king, not even just the king himself, but this right hand.
And it's a new right hand, right? One that was like recently appointed.
Yes.
Would Merigold be going out on a limb and saying like maybe this was a gesh that the demon forced him to appoint the demon itself to be the right hand?
It's absolutely a possibility, or it could even be the case that the king is now possessed because of this right hand man being connected to demons. The causal relationship could even go the other way.
Okay. I'm gonna wake up from the sky and go, okay, Jan, we need your help.
Hold on. There's more.
Okay.
There's more that you see. He's running up the steps. People are bowing to him deferentially. But eventually you see him walk through a number of like gardens and courtrooms and just the kind of complex that is the royal hall and the castle that it's connected to and all that stuff. And eventually he gets past a point, you see less and less like servants and passersby as he travels to a more secluded like wing of this castle. And once he gets past a certain amount of them, his demeanor changes and he seems to shake something off of himself. And he goes from having a very regal bearing of like a nobleman attending to courtly duties and like being polite to everyone who passes, and is just very clearly annoyed. He marches up a narrower set of steps and charges into a room where the king sits at the edge of the bed, hands templed, and the king looks up concerned at this man. And the man shouts something at the king in deep cunning, a language that you don't speak enough of to know really what's going on. But he says something, and the king just shakes his head and says, "No, the man who you're scrying on backhands the king viciously, and says something again in deep cunning, and eventually the king just nods and is very pale and like folds his arms and just leans against the wall at the edge of this bed, and the counselor holds out a number of like what appear to be royal decrees, and just watches the king sign each of them in his own hand, and then like does kind of one of these to the king as he's about to leave, and the king like flinches, like no, I get it, and the man leaves with a number of signed documents, but that's when the scry ends.
Oh dear, that's not good. Okay, Merigold, it's occurred to Merigold that like this could potentially be like a pretty powerful secret if I wanted to bind this to a spell that the king is possessed by a demon. But that cat's already out of the bag, and that's probably for the best in terms of like, you know, good of the realm, good of Merigold. Like, yeah, I am gonna go to the whole party and say, yeah, so this is gonna be a problem, but the demon possessing the king is actually his right hand, and he's forcing him to sign all sorts of decrees because I went and gummed everything up by announcing the fact that the king was possessed. I feel like we should probably do something about that. This is like potentially very, very bad. But yeah, it turns out that this counselor is this archduke is actually a demon, which I hadn't considered before, but something to take into account. Yeah, the questions I had for Jan are probably not as important anymore. I'm gonna see what everyone's.
How do we fight a demon who looks like should we be prepared to fight a man or prepared to fight a demon, prepared for them to switch mid-fight? Should we tell anybody else? Should we just kind of go and oh god.
Jan, do you speak Chthonic? Like, do you guys all speak the demon tongue?
Just sort of incantations, but I suppose at at a young child's level, probably a bit.
So if the demon were to suddenly be forced to blurt out a lot of secrets in High Chthonic, would you be able to like understand the gist of what they were saying?
Yeah, we could make that work.
So that might be one good way to gain a quick advantage in the fight. It's worked before, but I just didn't understand what the demon was saying, and it did flee. If there's someone there to understand it, that might be. In fact, were they there when I did that to that one demon? Were they not present for that demon fight?
Oh, they were there, but I believe that demon only communicated psychically to Alberth. Everything that's said. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that the one where? Oh, I meant the one after that where it just ran.
No, they were not there for that.
Okay. Yeah, so that would be the difference where that might make it better to have the demon blurt secrets if it works again, you know?
Yeah. Merigold, thing about that encounter with that demon, roll me a quick deduction check.
Sure.
Something you might be able to figure out based on this, but
16.
16 is very good. So Merigold, thinking about that, when you cast Compel Indiscretion on that demon and it ran into the woods, you realize that in that moment you felt the strength of that secret change because someone else found out about it.
I do remember that.
But there was something you found out later that you didn't correlate with that fact until now. Later, you found out from Arthias that someone's been casting proxy eyes and proxy ears on you. That same person might have heard the demon secret through your ears.
And understood it in order to...
Yes.
Damn. Okay. Wild.
Yep. Well, Jan says, we've never fought a king before, but we can't get more wanted by the law, right? They've got half an army on the streets looking for us. I suppose, why not go all the way? Why take another swing? Several of his, or two of his three brothers there look skeptical at this. Like, maybe there's extra downsides to trying this, but none of them feel that strongly enough to contradict his proposed course of action. Damn, I'm losing a lot of frames here.
Yeah,
I'm getting
Copy.
full ravioli. But you guys, do you have the gist of what I'm talking about? The Brothers of Ochre are in light disagreement, but it sounds like they're like, yeah, it sounds like what we have to do because of who we are. So yeah.
Can we just make some more chicken bones and like blitz through the city, up into the king's quarters, catch him off guard?
Oh, chicken bones are just what I had in the jail. We don't need chicken bones. I've got some things I've been working on. And once again, some of his brothers look like a little hesitant, like, we've known these people for 5 minutes. You're gonna give them some of the high-powered magic items that you've been working on for how damn long? Like, come on, dude! You're dispersing party loot without asking the party. But it's clear that their senses of honor and duty run deeper than their sort of goblin-like desire to keep magical items. We all relate to that goblin-like desire. We play Dungeons and Dragons. We know, but yeah, your planning is goes late into the night and into the early morning as you guys discuss the finer points of how to pin a king down in the middle of a circle of salt and chant ancient oaths over his struggling body. So yeah, you
holding out the king's guard or whatever.
Yes. The
It
finer
also
points
occurs
of
to me
all of that.
We need to deal with that charlatan who's also selling crossbows. At this point.
True.
Also, before we storm the castle, we should probably restock on salt and silver things
True.
in case we have to fight the actual demon.
Yep. Yeah, you guys hatch a plan. It involves so a lot of the plan for getting to the castle involves Elway disguising everybody. That seems like the strongest start for everybody. A lot of causing a distraction relies on Merigold making a lot of other people say things very loudly. A lot of the stealth boils down to Greyson's scouting, and a lot of the combat boils down to the Brothers of Ochre being the bluntest instrument and the heaviest instrument in the sort of tool belt you guys are bringing to all of these encounters. But as you guys are beginning to discuss, like, all right, when do we carry this out? What do we need to grab first? There is quite a commotion outside. Looking out, there are some windows that really function. They're more like those arrow holes, like the archer holes. What's the word I'm looking for? Ramparts or something. Yeah. You guys looking out of one of these, you guys see the commotion is a number of like peasants and urchins and stuff gathered mob-like behind a single very tall armored figure. You guys haven't seen this many urchins follow someone around since William first rolled into town. It's and what's more, the person is dressed in the armor of an inheritor. Inheritor armor has like distinctive symbols, markings, and actually like modifications that mark rank. In particular, one shoulder marks like their how high up the chain of command they are, and one pauldron marks like a different dimension to their military service. That's like how important of a mission can they take on and be like the spearhead of. This person looks very asymmetrical, but one of those armor sets that looks like very deliberately asymmetrical, like with the cape hanging out of one enormous pauldron. This person has almost no like rankings. They couldn't give orders if they wanted to, but they're trusted with the most important stuff of all time. In fact, Yasuka is one of the people tall enough to peek out of these like crenellations. I know that's wrong, but it just sounds very castle-y. Peeks out of one of these openings and audibly gasps. She says, "Those are the markings of a high executor. I've never met a high executor. It's wild that one would be this far west, actually." And yeah, this enormous tall person with the sword across their back is just strolling down, and a bunch of people are like shouting, asking questions of this person, and it's causing an increasingly large commotion. And eventually you hear the tall figure's voice. It's a very feminine voice. She turns towards the crowd and says, "I understand you all have a great many questions, but I'm here to do a job. There's an angel that needs bringing to justice." And with that, she turns on her heel and continues marching in the direction of the Red Temple.
No!
Elway looks around at everyone and goes, "I'm ready to disguise us all now, if we want to follow that lead."
Yeah.
And
Yep.
the Brothers of Ochre look at each other and say, "Why? Do you know any angels?" And they're all like laughing, like, "Oh yes, you do know angels."
A good friend, actually, who seems to be in trouble and could actually help us with the demon as well, potentially. Now that I think about it, he might have some insight.
One of the Brothers of Ochre, who's very edgily like sharpening the end of a knife on a whetstone, says, "Angels can't help in a fight." But doesn't seem to object to you going, just doesn't see a point to it. And Jan walks up to Merigold and says, if you and yours want to go out and see what's up with this angel business, we'll gather all the silver and salt that we need."
Right. Should we meet back here? Is this like a safe location?
This will be fine for another day and a half at least. Yeah,
Okay.
this will be good.
All right.
Yep. And you guys split up, go your separate ways. It's also worth noting, William, you have been able to get your hands on a brass circlet, less because like they're just commonly available, and more because the places that you'd been hanging out since getting into town were like very poor areas, mostly populated by people who kind of revere you as a little bit of a saint. So there's one particular burlap sack of your belongings put behind some hay bales that just no one has bothered, because the people who know it's there are like, that belongs to William. Very reverential. And so yeah, you go over and are able to grab one of these brass circlets, or did so last night, so that you wouldn't be wandering around with an enormous broken halo being like, "Guess who I am? One of the people who are wanted." Yeah, so you have this, which is great news, and Elway disguises everyone's faces, and you guys join the sort of thronging masses that are following this inheritor woman to the Red Temple. Is there anything that you shout out along with the constant demands of like, "Who are you? What do you want here? Why are you like 7 feet tall?" Anything else you guys want to add?
If you want to help, why don't you go after the king?
You hear her like, you see her like turn like 15 degrees at this, but not fully around. A bunch of people do join in the shouting, like, "Yeah, the king's possessed by a devil. Aren't you like, shouldn't you do something about that?"
Only devils kill angels.
Yeah, a bunch of people start chanting that. That's just something they can grab onto, and they're like, "Why would you be so mad at an angel?" Yeah, a bunch of people join that rhetoric of like, if you think an angel's in trouble, then it says more about you than it does about the angel. That seems to be rhetoric that resonates with everyone in this city, and for sure, it'd be hard to live in the capital for these couple of months and not have heard about Abel Kah Ashadd, because he's like a nuclear power plant of healing that they've been using. Eventually, you guys all arrive at the Red Temple, and ignoring the scribes and attendants that come to help her, she kicks the door in, and it flies open, slams, and does that shuddering door thing where they start to close again, and she has to push them back out again after kicking them in. But this throng of people follows her into this what used to be like this grand main meeting hall, which has been closed down for some time because they're just using it to extract as much sanguine mana as they can out of Abel Kah Ashadd, who it looks like has gone drastically downhill since the last time any of you saw him. Where last time he looked tired, he now looks gaunt. And if you've ever seen a depiction of a martyrdom by any Judeo-Christian religion, this is what it looks like. You can see his ribs, and he is hanging from several, not just the spears through each of his ribs, and through like the upper parts of his legs. But there is even a chain that seems to be wrapped in barbed wire that is being pulled through his opened abdomen back and forth. It has gone from being macabre to a sort of jigsaw-like factory of pain. And a number of the people gathered who had maybe heard of Abel Kah Ashadd but hadn't seen him are like shocked at this and take several steps backwards. The crowd thins out as they seem hesitant to follow this armored woman in, and raising us, once she's standing in the center of the room looking up several floors at Abel Kah Ashadd, she takes her sword out of the sheath across her back and points it with a single arm at him, in a way that you've only seen one other person do in the past, when Yasika made a solar accusation against Baron Teeth. If you'll recall, Yasika was wrong, and she fell unconscious immediately. But she explained that if she had been right, then Baron Teeth would have been much easier to subdue. She points this enormous blade at your good friend Abel Kah Ashadd, and she shouts in a booming voice that everyone can hear. She shouts, "Abel Kah Ashadd, you have broken your oaths." And in a flash, all of the spears and chains and pulleys attached to him give out from the walls, and he tumbles 4 feet, bounces off of 1 or 2 scaffoldings, and crashes to the ground in a cacophony of the things that are attached to him. And he, after a long moment, pulls himself up to face his accuser, who has lowered the point of her blade to him. She does not drop it, as she asks, "Repeat the oaths that you took upon entering the mortal world." And Abel Kah Ashadd draws in breath in a very shaky way and has to take a moment to recover his breath, and eventually inhales once again and says, "To act according to the ancient agreements towards mortal kin, to be honest, direct, helpful, and kind, to always protect and never to harm, to make use of the gifts of didacticism, healing, and light, and to distribute these mercies fairly and equitably among many peoples." And almost pleading, he looks up at her eyes and says, I know I could do. You can't fulfill all of those at once. If I'm supposed to make good use of the gifts of healing, then that means if I've found a way to transfer my healing to all of these people who are so in need, surely that surpasses my need to go from place to place and to spread these blessings more equitably. I know we're supposed to wander. I know that's what's expected of us, but there was so much need here, and the more needs that I filled here, the more people came from other kingdoms. They came from all over to receive this healing. No one could distribute their gifts more effectively than the people at the Red Temple have been doing here with me. And the inheritor stands still for a long moment, arms still holding this sword at full arm's length, but not quavering at all. And eventually she says, "You misunderstand me. That is not the oath to which I refer." Abel Kah Ashadd furrows his brow and looks up at her, and a glint of recognition happens in his eyes. He says, "I have not broken my oaths." And she looks down at him. She sets her sword back in her sheath and takes off her helmet. When she is no longer wearing the brass circlet inscribed on the inside of her helmet, a shining broken halo breaks out around her head. This woman is part Lycian. And putting her helmet under her arm, no longer pointing accusatorily at Abel Kah Ashadd, she says to always protect and never to harm. Who does that include? And Abel Kah Ashadd shakes his head and he says, I know there are people in other places that could still use this and they can't travel here. She says, who does it include? And he drops his arm to his side and he drops his eyes down, clearly ashamed. And he says, me. And he weeps. And eventually this inheritor nods, walks over, helps him to his feet, and begins to extricate all of these just weapons and tools of torture out of him, and to help his gaunt form away from the place. Other people start to pick up the chains and take them away. And in fact, before he leaves, a throng of attendants of just people from the street appear at the front of the Red Temple, and Abel Kah Ashadd looks around and once again seems to recognize a great number of them. And one of them, a tall, broadly built man, steps forward, apparently representing this group, and he says, "Abel, we've heard what's happening. We understand. It's time for you to leave, but these are just some of the people that you've helped heal in the time that you've been here. I know you don't want the Red Temple to run out of mana, and we're here to make sure that that happens." And one by one, they walk in and are paired off with more attendants at the Red Temple to have their sanguine mana sort of extracted in the place of his. And Abel Kah Ashadd simply continues to weep. He gets over to a safe place so that he can recover. Food and drink are brought to him. And as this inheritor woman, who just doesn't put her helmet back on, everyone saw, she's part Lycian, starts to walk away, her eyes drift over to your group and lock in on William. She walks up, cracks her neck. She says, "Hello, cousin. How's it been?"
Busy, I'd say.
Yeah. So I suppose all of this taking down blood magic stuff, that's because of our grandfather?
Correct.
All right. Well, I think I know some people who can help with that.
I'm just gonna
Father
walk with her.
Pointing to Abel Kah Ashadd.
Oh. Dang. Okay.
Mm.
Okay.
And that's where we'll call it for this week. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you, players, for playing. Next week, we'll probably be getting into some unrelated shenanigans with a new player swapping out for Miles for a little bit. We will eventually be returning to this setting and this campaign for Act 2 of 2 of the Axis of Instinct. But for now, just thank you for coming, and thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.